And you don't want to be totally reliant on the franchisor to give you
That's
the
right.
information. I mean, even if they give you very detailed information, you want to figure out how to corroborate that information, how to verify that information, because after all, it's your money.
Yeah, and I always tell people that are looking to invest, this is your business. It's your future. You have to take responsibility regardless of whether you start your own business or whether you go into a franchise system. Either way, it's your responsibility to figure out how are you going to make money and what are you going to need to know in order to have some assurance that the business is viable enough to make the money that you want to make. That's your responsibility. You have to do the projections and stuff.
It's both a science and an art. Just take, for example, calling up franchisees. What I know when I was a franchisee and pretty successful, I got a lot of calls. And a lot of times, I'm not sure what they're asking.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm so busy that I can't return their calls the same day or even the same week.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm trying to be helpful, but...
Let's talk about that a bit, because we do encourage people as part of what, again, is called validation or a validation call. The franchisor, by law, again, and the FDD is going to provide you with a list of all the existing franchisees with their contact information. If there's people who have left the system, either because they've been dissatisfied or because they've terminated or they've been terminated by the franchisor because they violated some aspect of the contract, their contact information is also provided. Now, you have to realize that some of the people who have moved on may have changed addresses, they may have changed phone numbers, so the contact information may or may not be always fresh. But it's the most recent information that the franchisor has on those franchisees. So can you learn something from talking to past franchisees? Of course you can. There's certain etiquette that I would suggest that people use if they're going to make validation calls. Now, the franchisor might also offer to give you a list of franchisees who are the ones most likely to make themselves available to answer questions, and so that can be helpful. But the idea is, etiquette-wise, you got to realize the people who are franchisees, these are independent small business owners.
Right.
These are people who have a job to do every day. They're out working in their business. They may or may not have time to answer every call that some prospective franchisee might have to take time away from their day to ask them a bunch of questions. Hopefully, out of courtesy, they would be willing to do that,
Right.
but there's no requirement for them to do that. So one rule is, one thing that we would recommend is if you're going to make calls to franchisees to get information, respect their time, call when there's a good chance that they're going to be available. You might ask whoever answers the phone if the owner is in. If they're not in, say, when is a good time to try to catch them? And maybe they call in the morning before they start their day, maybe at some other time, but have the courtesy of calling them when it's convenient for them. Don't leave a voicemail expecting them to return your call. They have better things to do, and it's not a sign that they don't care, it's just that they're busy.
Well, and a lot of times I'm trying to help fellow franchisees and prospective franchisees. It would be easier for me if they knew what questions they wanted answers to.
Yeah.
If they could email that to me ahead of time. Sometimes I have to do some homework before I can answer their questions. So if they put me on the spot and I'm trying to help them with an answer, I may end up having to say, it's going to take me a while to get you the information you need. So if you email it to me and I have the time, I can come up with the right answers and giving you better factual information.
Right. So we would recommend that you have specific questions that you're going to ask, and ask the franchisee who you're going to interview, can I have a little of your time? Is this a good time? Can I have a little bit of your time? I have 6 questions. I have 9 questions. I have 12 questions that I'd like to go through with you real quick, and I promise to keep it short. And then have those questions written out in advance that you're going to go through and ask. When you're asking questions about how much money they make or, you know, those types of things, they may or may not want to come right out and tell you. So there's right ways to ask questions to get enough information for you to make your own projections and to kind of fill in the blanks a little bit. So that's, again, it's a courtesy thing, it's a etiquette thing, it's about knowing what to ask for, and we're going to actually provide, I think, a list of questions in our
yes.
course that we would recommend would be the types of questions you might ask a franchisee to validate the system, so that you're using everybody's time wisely, and you're again asking questions that people would feel comfortable asking in most cases.
Right.
So that's our recommendation when it comes to figuring out how you're going to get a return on investment. Use the documentation that's available from the franchisor, and then go out and get the additional information from other sources, primarily from past franchisees or active franchisees, and then any other industry information that you can go and get that you would have to get to do your own projections to determine whether or not you're going to make money in this franchise.